Great to be here.
Thank you, Kim. Thank you. So, 1995, Los Angeles. You started your first art show, which actually occurred in Pasadena, California. Is that correct?
Correct. We started with 14 galleries and 250 attendees, and the artwork was all historic work at that show. And over the course of the years, it's really reflected the change in Los Angeles. So your question is kind of, what was Los Angeles like
Yes.
5 years ago? And what was the show? And the show was reflective of kind of what LA was interested in at that point. And then as LA's taste has kind of changed, we tried to change the show and grow the show with Los Angeles. And I think the show has been a direct reflection of how Los Angeles has changed and grown over the years, that there's become more and more interest in art in Los Angeles over the last 25 years, and interest in actually forming collections rather than just putting on your wall a poster of an Andy Warhol print, to actually put a real Andy Warhol print on your wall, because I think people are taking art much more seriously. The reason we started the show in Pasadena and in California was there was a group of dealers that wanted a show. There was no show in Los Angeles, and that we felt like Los Angeles is probably the most creative city in the world. And we've had the movie industry since its inception, and many other industries that are to do with creativity has really been founded or started in California. We're a big part of those. So we felt like if there's any city in the world that really reflects creativity and what should create a great environment for art, is California. And we had really kind of the next movement with people like John Baldessari and Ed Roche that the world was starting to look at. And later, they did the PST that kind of verified that the world had been looking at this group of artists that were based here in Los Angeles, kind of the next group from New York, and then the next group was kind of that group that was in western part of Los Angeles City. And also the Pacific Rim was starting to explode with Latin America, with Asia, with China, Japan, and Australia, so all of that Pacific Rim, India, and that was really kind of where the money and creativity was starting to kind of blossom. So it kind of all ties to that creative world and what we're looking at in trends. And it was starting to move away from the East Coast and Europe and go to the Pacific Rim. And our feeling was, and my feeling still is, that LA is at the center of that Pacific Rim, especially for the United States.
So do you believe that the trend will continue with LA being at the focal point?
I think that LA is one of the most, obviously I'm biased, but I feel that LA is one of the most exciting cities right now because of what's happening with the amount of museums that have been created in Los Angeles over the last 3 or 4 years. The interest that I see in the new collector base that's being developed here. And I think that the Pacific Rim is only getting stronger. It has not gone the other way. Like when you look about 5-6 years ago, the world was looking at BRIC, 4 countries: Brazil, Russia, India, and China. Right now, Brazil has not fulfilled what we thought Brazil would do with oil reserves. Russia is in trouble. But India and China, if you bar the current infection aspect of it, India and China are still the strongest countries in potential of what everyone was looking at when we looked at BRIC. And B and R are kind of gone, so now it's just the I and C. I think that one of the exciting things is that the show every year gets a little bit better and brings a little bit more collectors to it. And what we've done with Diverse Art LA, I don't see really happening in any other shows in the world to the level that we give the space to museums and invite museums from different parts of the world and have the museums participate that are in our community and present things that only create excitement. They don't compete with the gallery, they just create excitement with other collectors and that. So I think that aspect of it. We just received this is brand new information, but that is that next year we will be on the same date as Freeze. And that's a huge thing, something I've been working on since the inception of this show, really, or I should really say at least the last 15 years, because I started what's called LA Arts Month about 10 to 12 years ago, and that was a big part of the LA landscape. And the goal of that was always to unite and bring other shows into at the same time. So finally, LA will have all of its shows, art shows, on one weekend, like many other marketplaces around the world. And with the things that we just discussed about why LA is important in the pantheon of all of the other cities and art world. So I think that with that combination, and the city's excitement towards art and the creativity of LA, I think that we are at a point that this show has gone 25 years, but the next 25 years could be at a whole nother level.
Congratulations on that. I think we can all agree that if we have a question to do so. Is there anyone that would like to exchange a bit of Q&A? Yes.
We have a 5-hour conversation.
Hi, my name is Dr. Martindale, and I'm completely excited to be here. Would you please tell us anything you're planning to do in Pasadena? Any exhibitions are coming to Pasadena?
That's actually where the show started, so I have a found place in my heart for Pasadena. But really, this is the center, and it's really trying to pull people from Pasadena down to here and other parts of this area. But Pasadena has some amazing museums and centers, and there's some galleries here from Pasadena, Arcadia for one, and Pasadena is a wonderful place, and that's where this all started 25 years ago. So, thank you.
Thank you for that. Sir, you had a question.
So, Kim, why do you think you haven't attracted more blue chip galleries in New York?
Because I really think that the market in LA until the last couple of years has been a very difficult market. And I think this could be a 5-hour conversation, so I'm going to limit it to a couple of questions. Because we've already talked. But I really feel like in my earlier comments that LA has really started to move that needle. And as we talked about the other day, like when I was talking to those blue chip galleries, even here in Los Angeles or in other places, 5, 10, 15 years ago, their statement was like people in LA, even though we have and we still do have some of the largest collectors in the world, but in most cases they wanted to buy art in another city. And I've heard this probably, if I've heard it once, I've heard it 300 times, where people would say, I had dinner with my clients, I showed them the piece, and I said, I'm headed to X city for an art show. And the client said, oh, that's interesting. That client would then fly to wherever that city was, 6 to 12 hours away, walk into the booth of that very dealer, that very piece, and say, wow, that's an amazing piece. I want that in my collection. Buy the piece at that show, say, you're my dealer, bring it back to LA and bring it to my home and hang it in my home. And that's a disturbing thing and something I've really had to battle with or deal with over these years. But I can say that I take pride in that Los Angelinos are finally saying, no, I want to say I bought a piece of art from Los Angeles instead of another city, and in many cases it was a Los Angeles-based artist that they were buying in another city at this other art show that they wouldn't buy in LA. So that's even doubly more difficult because it's a Los Angeles-based artist. And I think finally people are saying, no, I can take pride that I'm in Los Angeles and I'm buying an artwork here. And I think more and more people are flying into events here in Los Angeles to actually buy artwork in Los Angeles. And I want to hear those stories, even though I know how frustrating it will be for those other cities. But I want to start hearing, and I think I will, the story of somebody in X city saying, oh, my gallery went to Los Angeles, and that's where I had to buy the piece. So.
What do you think of Felix on the show?
I think it's a very nice show. I think it has some very good galleries. I think that hotel shows are always a difficult thing because of the setting. And I think we've seen that in Miami, and there's really only one or two hotel shows left.
I mean, with Agua.
Well, Aqua's really the only one left. And there was, I mean, I participated with my gallery in a hotel show in Miami. So I think that hotel shows have a certain life and a certain fun cachet when they first start. But I don't think that they can ever really grow to be a serious show because of the parameters of being in a hotel. But I think they have some amazing galleries, and it's a fun show.
Chip galleries, I mean, that's there now.
They have some fun galleries there, yeah.
So, yeah, it's only the second year, right?
Yes.
It's cool city.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I have worked with you now for 10 years, and one of the things that I have really loved about the show is that it's expanded beyond its primary objective into becoming a civic event of sorts and exposing thousands and thousands and thousands of people to art over the years. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, I mean, I'm pleased that the show is growing that way, and I think that obviously for dealers in that, it's important to have collectors here and transactions have to take place, but I also think that part of building a show and having the audience come and just enjoy it is a very important part of it, and that's why we keep people starting to donate 30,000 square feet to museums is as a public civic responsibility. I think that, any show that over the course of the last 3 years we've had an average of like 55 to 70,000 people at, which means it's one of the best attended shows really anywhere in the world. And I think that just once again reflects the interest of art in Los Angeles. And I think that people are learning what they're most interested in.
You got questions or not?
I noticed that there was no plein air art or California art here. I guess is that because it's not modern enough? Is that the issue, or?
No, I think it's just that right now that market is very difficult. Those were all very close friends of mine because that's what the show was founded on. I mean, out of the 14 galleries that we had the very first year in Pasadena, I would say, just in a quick estimation, 9 of those were plein air galleries. George Stern, Ray Redmond, and I think that market is a very difficult market for them right now. And so they've kind of decided that this isn't the place to kind of come out right now because they're having their own difficulties with the pricing structure of plein air. I personally collect historic material, and I see that across the board in historic material.
I guess their prices have just gone down too much to where it's not worth it for them to.
Well, it's a question of the cost of a booth versus that, and I think they're just making decisions based on that. And I think
I see.
At some point they will probably do that.
Okay, no, thank you very much.
And I hope they are coming back because I love plein air.
Hi, my name's Carol. I just wanted to say, you mentioned before about New York, and
Can't hear you.
that's just asinine in my opinion. That's like saying, well, New Yorkers send their dealers to Rome or something like that. I think that's so, especially with all the things going on in the world, in California, politically, and how that influences our,
Which aspect? I'm sorry. The collectors the dealer took their work to New York or some other place?
So you were saying that New York, their collectors want to say that they purchased it from New York, another state.
Yeah.
And I just think it's asinine and it's pretentious.
It's frustrating for me, but now luckily that's changing.
But because of what's going on in the world, and California is so much, politically very outspoken, to make the most money out of the whole United States, that's definitely going to change. And
Yes.
that's great that you're a part of it and you're supporting it.
Yeah.
Thank
It's
you.
starting to change, so thank you. Thanks.
Thank you so much, everyone. Is there another question, comment, thought that someone would like to exchange with Kim Martindale, the founder of the show? Then I think we've had a wonderful discourse. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks for the
Enjoy the
question.
show, everyone.